Is the monthly Ultima Microsoft licensing webinar on today, the 2nd of April. My name is Ian Gerard. I'm one of the Microsoft licensing consultants for Ultima. So you can see my contact details there. And thanks very much for joining. Like I say, these sessions are recorded and the slides will be made available at the end. Similarly, if there's any questions, please let me know as we go, and I'll try and cover those off at the end. But ultimately, if there's anything within the subject this month that you are interested in hearing about more, hearing further, perhaps a little bit more specific to your organisation, then do please let me know, or your account manager know, obviously, and we can talk to you about that. This is intended to be an overview, so would be done in hopefully in about 20 minutes time, or a bit longer depending on the questions, or if I continue to ramble. The situation obviously from when I did the invite and the content for this month has changed. It's kind of changed quite a lot, so I will be covering off what Microsoft are kind of doing in today's environment, in today's contexts, and there have been even since then also been some more new releases. So predominantly we'll be concentrating on looking at that Microsoft Power Platform, and then we'll have a look at the E5 licensing, and then we will go into a little bit around what Microsoft are doing around the COVID-19 and what they're doing to support their customers. There's been a lot of marketing, been a lot of conversations around it, and there's some offers in the marketplace, some of which you may or may not qualify for. So I will spend quite a bit of time covering that off, because that's something that's coming to be quite important, and everyone's been kind of quite keen to hear about that. But like I said, initially kind of did the webinar this month around the Microsoft Power Platform, so that's where I do want to start. And when we're talking about, Microsoft Power Platform, effectively you're talking about 4 separate products. A couple of them have been rebranded, such as Power Automate, which was previously Microsoft Flow, and some of them, such as Power BI, have been around for quite a while now. But there they are. It's Power Apps, it's Power BI, Power Automate, and Power Virtual Desktop. And what I'll be doing, I'll be covering off from a licensing perspective how to license these products, as opposed to talking too much really about their capabilities. Obviously, we've got consultants and I've got data sheets, and we can engage with Microsoft if we did want to analyze whether there is the correct product for you. But really focusing on the licensing today, starting with Microsoft Power Apps. Obviously, this is the low code kind of no code application platform where you can build all of your line of business applications, or you can kind of customize those existing Office 365 ones. You do get elements of Power Apps kind of within your Office 365 subscription. You also get actually within Dynamics 365 as well. But otherwise, you're really looking at a couple of choices, which is, am I going to license this on a kind of per user, per app basis, or am I going to actually license this on a generic kind of per plan basis? So very much that per app, per user option being the entry level, I would suppose. You'd be looking at around kind of £7.50 per user per month, and this kind of allows any individual license for that kind of per user, per app plan to access an unlimited number of actually access a unlimited number of sorry, I can't get my words out. What I've put up here, custom apps, what I've put up here is effectively a breakdown between those 4 licensing models and the capabilities that each one provides you. So like a matrix of what you can do, starting off with the capabilities you actually get just within a standard Office 365 enterprise plan, so kind of an E1 plan or an E3 plan. You can still run kind of custom applications. You do have some standard connectors, and pretty limited otherwise in regards to Office 365. Obviously, moving down through Dynamics, you've got a lot more capabilities to run custom maps. As long as you're within that Dynamics environment and within that Dynamics app, you can have all of those kind of standard and premium connectors. But really what we're looking at here is the per user per app plan, which I just mentioned there, that kind of £7.50 per user per month kind of entry level. As you see, you do get all of those standard and premium connectors and gateways and everything you can see on there. You are kind of restricted in your database capacity to 50 meg, and for the file capacity to about 400. So really, once you start wanting to do things a bit more across the organization, you're going to have to move to the actual per app plan. You're going to be paying around £30 per user per month, I'd say, for that kind of standard list price. But again, you are going to then get much greater capacity per license, looking at up to 5,000 daily API requests, kind of 2 gig worth of file capacity. So yes, it is kind of quadruple the price, but obviously as soon as you're doing that across your organization, it's going to be a more cost-effective solution for you. Moving on to Power BI, probably one of the most developed of Microsoft's kind of Power Platform. You've effectively, again, got 2 choices, Power BI Pro or Power BI Premium. The Power BI Premium is actually part of, or elements of it are part of SQL Enterprise, some of the report servers, so they'll be worth checking out whether you've actually got some existing licensing. But again, effectively, if you're licensing Power BI Pro, that's a per user per month type license, £6.40 per user per month. But basically fully license that individual to have access to a full kind of Power BI collaboration, publishing, sharing, create the content themselves, share, edit, full access rights for those Power BI Pro users. In actual fact, just if someone's actually wanting to interact with the portals and the work and the worksheets that they're sharing, not everyone interacting with that would necessarily need a Power BI Pro per user license. That's £6.40. It really does depend on the actual amount of whether they actually need to create the content themselves. That's a good way of looking at it. Bit broad brushstroke, but basically if they're creating that content, then they're going to have one of those Power BI Pro per user per month licenses. With Power BI Premium, this is obviously on a far greater scale, really using big data analytics, so kind of licensing the organization. You're licensing the individual cores where actual Power BI is running, so you're kind of providing that unlimited capability. You do have plan 1, plan 2, plan 3, plan 4. So there are different plans even then within Power BI Premium, and certainly lots of advanced administration. But to give you an example, that kind of Power BI Premium jumps from kind of £6.40 per user per month up to 3,200 per month. But you are going to effectively move to an unlimited user case. So as you can see, it's relatively rare that organizations, obviously some financial institutions, traders, and some global organizations certainly finding the value in Power BI Premium. Moving on to Power Automate. Actually renamed from Flow. Renamed from Flow, as I mentioned previously. You've got a couple of options really when it comes to licensing Power Automate or Flow, these kind of enabled workflows for your organization. You can do it on a per user basis, or you can do it on a per flow basis, generally speaking. There's opportunities to buy additional add-on runs and elements like that. But if you're licensing it per user, if you like, per business process, you'll be looking at £75 per user. So that's pretty expensive. A good more entry level, I suppose, would be the per automation per user, which is starting at around £11. So on that left hand side, the per user which does allow those individuals to create unlimited number of flows. It is that kind of entry level. That's the one for £11, where you can absolutely create, and the individual can create and run unlimited number of flows. It does support a kind of a broad adoption for your users, and there's kind of minimal overhead for the admins because the users kind of managing it all. Obviously, then you can have the other approach, which is more on the per flow side. And again, you'd be looking at that kind of jumping up to around £75 per month. But that does enable, absolute the top flows. There is a minimum of a 5-unit purchase, so you can't just buy one per flow. You would need to license a minimum of 5. But it does allow up to 15,000 API daily requests per flow. Just on the per user one, that's only kind of 5,000. Not only your top guys, only the top flows would need only the top flows would need to be licensed. So if you are creating child flows and things like that, then they don't need to be underneath. If you're licensing on a kind of a per flow basis, you don't need to license those child flows. Fine. Oh, and here's actually a little bit more detail in regards to that. So these slides will be made available. And as you can see, the difference there between the per user plan or the per flow plan, all kind of laid out there in regards to all the kind of file capacity as well. The final element of Microsoft's Power Platform is the Power Virtual Desktop. And again, this is something that you would license per tenant, excuse me. And again, you'd be looking at around £750 kind of standard list price per tenant. And as you can see there, you get the chat sessions and the license capacity all laid out there. But again, you're going to be looking up to 2,000 sessions per month, unlimited really when it comes to kind of creating workflows within the Power Virtual Desktop. But obviously done at a tenant level as opposed to a per user level, where that would be kind of up at £750 per tenant per month for that. But those are the actual use rights that you would get, or the capabilities that you would get within that. So, I mean, that covers off the Microsoft Power Platform. Like I say, just looking at the licensing side, we're more than happy to explore the product side further. The next element I wanted to come on to was the E5 level of Microsoft 365 licensing. So we spent, Microsoft spent a lot of time, and obviously Ultima spent a lot of investment in Office 365 and the Enterprise Mobility Suite in Microsoft's full cloud platform. I think Microsoft are adding more and more products every day, which is great. And this subject is huge. I could talk for a long time around every one of these, but I'm going to try and focus in really on that E5 layer. Now, even when it comes to Microsoft's cloud, when I'm talking about, Office 365 is different from Microsoft 365. E1 is different from E3, is different from F1 is F5, E5. So with Microsoft, with Office 365, we're talking about the productivity servers, Exchange and Teams and Skype, or not so much anymore, SharePoint, Office Professional Plus, Yammer, Planner, My Analytics, all that kind of great stuff. What we're really looking at in this webinar is the E5 level of that Office 365. So not so much looking at the Exchange online, I'm pretty sure that's covered off. So each one of these in these boxes here are all of the individual components for Office 365 at that E5 level. Phone system, audio conferencing, Power BI Pro, which we spoke about before, Advanced Threat Protection Plan 2, as well as the Advanced Compliance for Office 365. Now you can actually buy those individually. You are, as has always been the case, and we continue to monitor this, if you only need 2 of those, what is in effect 5 different products, then it's going to be cheaper for you to buy the individual SKU. And if you suddenly need Advanced Threat Protection Plan 2 with some audio conferencing and Power BI Pro, at that point that full E5 level is going to be cost effective for you. cheaper, basically. Now, you'll also see a little bit on there the phone system and audio conferencing, and how does that relate to Teams? It's a very relevant kind of question lots of people are asking. So if you buy Teams at E3 level, you're basically getting the vast majority of all of Teams's features and functions. You're going to have that full instant messaging, you're going to have the presence, you're going to be able to do the desktop sharing, you're going to be able to have voice and video conversations on a one-to-one basis, or on a one-to-one or a one-to-many basis. You can create live broadcasts, which is kind of one to up to 10,000 users joining, and perhaps if the CEO's got a message or delivering a message to those guys working at home. This is all kind of within Teams E3 level. So really what you're buying at E5 level in regards to Teams and telephony is audio conferencing and phone system. The vast majority are taking audio conferencing because what E3 doesn't provide you is a telephone number, is a dial-in number for people to use. So if you've got everyone using their computers and kind of they've got that Teams or Skype application locally installed on their devices, or even if they're using even if they're using a web app, then they can join the conference, get video, have voice, create them absolutely fantastic. Second, you want to say, well, actually, I want to provide a dial-in option for some guys who are not part of my organization, or who don't have access to the client or their mobile, they're out and about. So sometimes if the organizer of the conference wants to be able to say, well, where's John, and let's dial out to him and bring him into this meeting, for that functionality to add those kind of dial-in numbers, that is audio conferencing. Phone system, that's your PBX, so that's again creating that and managing that as a phone system. In addition to this, actually, you wouldn't then need potentially call plans as well, local domestic call plans. Pretty expensive, obviously, but you can, they shouldn't, it does work. You don't have to use the Microsoft call plans, I suppose, is my mealy-mouthed way of saying that. Power BI Pro we've covered off before, and then as you can see there, some of the advanced threat protection, threat intelligence within Office 365 E5 level as well. Moving on to the Enterprise Mobility and Security Suite, I realise I am rambling on a bit, so I'll pick up the pace. Apologies. The products within Enterprise Mobility and Security, you're effectively talking around Azure Active Directory Premium Plan 1, My Analytics, Intune, information protection, and really the EMS E5 level, the same rules apply. You can see each one of those individual products there, from Information Protection Plan 2 to Cloud App Security. You can buy those as individual components, or you can obviously buy it as part of the suite. With less products on the EMS side, if you need to buy just Azure AD Premium Plan 2 for that risk-based conditional access, which a lot of people are doing, then just buy Azure AD Premium Plan 2. If you need that alongside perhaps Azure Advanced Threat Protection, then actually at EMS level, you just need to get a couple of the components to make the full suite worthwhile. As I said at the start of the call, you might have lot pricing, add-on pricing. You might already have a certain level of licensing which you want to step up from. So every organization are going to have their own unique price. But whatever that unique price is, the maths doesn't really change in regards to should I buy the individual component or should I buy the full suite. And we cost model it out and speak to a licensing consultant or team about that. Moving on to the final piece of Microsoft's cloud. No, I don't. When they kind of approach a organization, you have still got the Microsoft approach of covering off the systems, the servers, and the applications. If the applications is Office, the systems is, the servers is Exchange and System Center and Intune and all that good stuff. And systems has and always will be that third piece, which is the operating system. And in this case, it's Windows 10 Enterprise. So that's kind of adopted the same cloud licensing. You have E3 option and an E5 option. It's a key part of Microsoft 365. So when you're buying Office 365, Enterprise Mobility and Security, the third piece would be Windows 10, that operating system, and that makes up that Microsoft 365. But like I say, anyway, Windows 10 you're buying an OEM license, that's going to be professional edition. So straight away, if you're needing to cover it with software assurance to get the most common one, you need a mobile workforce, you need remote access, so you buy Windows E3 on top. And then you think, well, what is the Windows 10 E5 level? What am I really buying with that? I'm getting my OEM copy, which is professional, and that's giving me BitLocker and all that Windows 10 user experience. And then, oh, okay, I'm adding on software assurance because I want to get remote access, but that's also going to give me things like, Windows Defender antivirus. It's going to give me AppV. It's going to give you things like the old MDOP. So all of those kind of managing of the virtual desktops, virtual applications, direct access. Anyway, the Windows E5 level is basically just Windows Defender. Windows Advanced Threat Protection is what it is on top, just that single thing. And that provides things like threat analytics, but you can't actually buy those as individual components. So on the Windows 10 E5 level, it's basically E5. It's basically just Windows Defender Advanced Threat Protection. That's all it is. It's good if you need it. Microsoft made a big play on E5, and there's some great stuff in there, but because of the high expense, it's double the cost of E3. And again, I'm really dealing in broad brushstrokes here. Lots of organizations are seeing more value in going to the individual components, and then Microsoft trying to incentivize, oh, we'll go to the full E5. And that's a conversation we're always keen to negotiate and have for you and with you. Microsoft have also introduced and in the play to get organizations stepped up to E5 better. Or actually, to be fair, they've seen what organizations are doing, how they're buying individual components, and they're thinking, well, maybe we can offer a better option here. So they have offered these mini suites. Again, we've stuck with the kind of the block approach, but you've effectively got two of these mini E5 suites. The first one being information protection and compliance, the second being identity and threat protection. And what that does, it takes that E5 level across Office 365 EMS or Windows Defender and says, well, actually, let's take out the identity and threat protection, the security elements of E5. So with Office 365, it's threat intelligence, advanced threat protection, and on the operating system side, it's Defender. And then they bundle those in and say, well, actually, you can buy just this security level of E5, which is far cheaper than buying the full E5, and also cheaper than having to buy all those individual components, which some organizations were doing. And it's the same ethos with the compliance suite as well. Taking those compliance products such as Advanced Information Protection Plan 2, the one where you can kind of restrict what users are doing and sending out, and really having really big, strong rights management around that. That's what they're doing, introducing of these kind of mini E5 suites. So you're looking at around £6.40 for the compliance one, and around £9 for the information protection one as well. And they're both add-on suites, or they can be purchased as as individual SKUs as well. So I wanted to I wanted to cover off what Microsoft are offering customers. There's been a lot of talk in the marketplace, rightly so. What are Microsoft doing to support UK businesses at this time with a workforce which are working from home? You may have seen around the free trials, the free licenses that they're giving out. This does come in 3 different flavors that I'll just cover off now. So the first thing Microsoft are offering customers is basically free access to some of their software with with caveats. So it's all based around Teams. So when we're talking about E1, it's Office 365 E1, this free trial, and yes, that does include Exchange as well, and it does include SharePoint as well. But Microsoft's ethos is, well, if we get organizations who are previously not using Teams, it's not something that they're going to take out of the organization afterwards. And Teams is a great product. I obviously use it a lot. And I want to cover off the first option, which is the free Office 365 trial, where Microsoft have basically said there's a 3,000 user limit, and you only have to do it for 6 months. So it's kind of it's only for 6 months. It's kind of via the cloud solution provider or CSP agreement platform, and it's been very, very popular. Now, it can't replace paid subscriptions. If you've got a CSP agreement and you've got 300 users and you're buying E1 today and you're thinking, well, I've got a renewal tomorrow, but what I'm going to do is not renew that for 6 months. And unfortunately, Microsoft aren't going to be that nice. They say it cannot replace paid subscriptions. So you can have additional users, new users, but if that user's already got a presence in AAD, then you'll not be able to provide the E1 trial for that user. That's kind of with a 3,000 user limit. There is another option in regards to the E1 trial, which is a little bit more flexibility, and this is kind of for unlimited number of users. Again, it's got that 6-month time frame, but actually this is only going to be relevant to Microsoft managed customers. So if you're on that Microsoft managed account list, we can approach your account manager, get approval, and there might be a little bit more leeway in regards to your managed accounts. There might be a little bit more leeway in regards to whether you're allowed to take that trial. Again, it's designed for new users, so for organizations kind of not currently using it. But with that one, if you're a managed Microsoft customer, then that could be an option for you. And the final one is actually, there's a lot of marketing material about this, but this is literally Microsoft Teams for free. Unlimited number of users with no expirations. This is really driven at the small business market. So for example, those small organizations, 5-10 users who not used this before, it is going to be very good for them. It's really only for customers with zero cloud. So I'm talking about if you sign up to this trial and your presence is if your account within AAD is drawn up, then you will be redirected towards a paid subscription. So you can't create a new tenant and just stick all the users in there as new users and then look to merge those tenants in the future. That's not going to be possible. But certainly those free trials are what Microsoft are doing. Like I say, all going to be available straight away. There is also, moving on to some other new users, a new subscription from Microsoft, and it's going to be called Microsoft 365 F1. Actually, there's already an F1. Well, actually, the current F1 is going to be renamed to F3, and there's going to be a new F1. Again, so we've got some revision of names and a new online subscription, all launching as of yesterday. And yes, there is some expanded use rights as well within those existing licenses and some addition of some new licenses as well. But effectively, we're talking about the first line worker. So previously, this F1 license, you had Office 365 F1 and Microsoft 365 F1. The Office 365 F1, as you can see there, just includes the basic Teams and access to web apps and the 2 gig inbox, and that's not going anywhere apart from that is previously called that's previously called Office 365 F1. That's now going to be changed to Office 365 F3. The current Microsoft 365 F1 is going to be renamed to Microsoft 365 F3 because they're introducing a new entry-level F1 with an even reduced functionality and a new lower price point. You're still going to get the full enterprise mobility and security suite E3, and you're still going to get Teams. Not the full version of Teams. So we mentioned before kind of E3 level, how you can pretty much do everything. Within the F level, it includes Teams, yes, and it does include full AV, and it does include meeting creation, but it doesn't include things like desktop sharing. So it's not that full enterprise level of Teams, but it does allow your workers to kind of work and communicate from home, even if the F1 user is designed for those who would spend 15-20% in front of a PC ordinarily, working in warehouses, working in shop floors, working as a delivery driver, working on a manufacturing plant, and other types of users like that as well. So that's something else Microsoft are doing, have kind of effectively rushed this release. Well, I don't want to say that, it's been working in the planning, but obviously made sure they've got it out as providing as a new option for those first line workers. So that actually brings the webinar to a close. So thank you very much for your time. I did overrun. I said I would be 20 to 25 minutes and it was closer to 30. So let me know if you have any questions, and there's my contact details if you want to contact me. I'll check the questions now. Not a single one, just the way we like it. But please, if there is anything that you'd like to know, then don't hesitate to ask me or your account team. But thanks very much for your time.